Good morning, ladies. This is Sherry Lutz Harrington at Strong Women Thriving, and I have a special guest for us today. I'm so excited. We have Leah Hadley here today, and Leah is an incredible woman. I was reading through all your information, and I'm just like more and more blown away as I get to know you better. And I have to say, our stories are kind of similar. It's kind of interesting when I got to know a little bit more about your personal story, the overlap. So Leah owns International Divorce Solutions, as well as Great Lakes Investment Management. And there's this third company, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later on. So you're a very busy woman doing a lot of important work. So I understand that your commitment to supporting women through divorce is kind of a personal thing. Is that correct? Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, absolutely. I have had many times in my own life that have been financially challenging. I was raised by a single mom and experienced divorce when I was 8 years old. My parents divorced and saw my own mom's struggles. And so sometimes I think about what I'm doing is being there for her, even when, the many hers that there are, I guess I should say. And then when I went to college, I graduated. I was swimming in student loan debt. And I was burnt out in the classroom. I was a teacher at the time, and I took a temp job, and it was at an investment bank. And I never thought I was going to get into finance, Sherry, at all, really. And
It's all by accident, right?
right.
I ended up here by accident too.
I was teaching third grade in Baltimore public schools, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I took this job at this investment bank, and I was so fortunate that I had wonderful mentors there. They actually hired me on permanently pretty quickly, and was in an administrative role in the equity research department. So equity research is all about following individual stocks and making stock recommendations to institutional investors. So I learned so much there. I mean, when I first walked in, I don't probably couldn't have told you what an equity was. And
I don't
so
know if I can now, but
I felt like everybody around me was speaking a different language. But I quickly learned. I did a lot of work on learning on my own. I read books, I took classes on the side, I did all my licensing exams, and I actually became a senior publishing equity research analyst during that time that I was doing that work. So people actually were interested in my opinions on individual stocks and in major portfolios and that kind of a thing, which was pretty cool. But I also was going through a time where my ex-husband and I really wanted to adopt our children. We were going through the foster care system, and you have to go through all these classes. And
I've been there,
either
done that. That was part of the overlap in our story.
yeah,
I didn't end up actually adopting, but I've been through the process. So yeah, I
okay.
understand that. It's complicated. It takes a lot of effort for
It
sure.
is, and it doesn't lend itself well to a career in equity research, which requires a significant amount of travel.
Ooh,
Besides that, I realized it just wasn't going to be able to be the mom that I wanted to be having that career. So I ended up deciding I wanted to work with individuals and families. I became a financial advisor working with
wait,
individuals
back
and
up.
families.
You
Yep.
missed the step on the adoption story.
Yes.
You
Not
went
yet.
from
I didn't
zero
adopt them
kids
yet.
to you went from 0 kids to 3 kids overnight. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And what ages were they when you adopted them?
So after I became a financial advisor, we were able to get through that whole program. And
Okay.
the kids came to our home when they were 1, 4, and 5, and we were able to adopt them about a year later.
Okay. And are they all siblings? Were
They are
they?
all siblings. So yes, we
Okay.
went from 0 to 3 overnight. It was incredibly overwhelming, as I'm sure any parents out there can imagine. And they had been through a lot. They had been through different foster families, and while they were very ready for a permanent home, they also came with a lot of difficult experiences at an early age. And so it was a lot. It was a lot of pressure on my ex-husband and I, and we very quickly realized that we didn't parent well together. And so we ended up going through our own divorce. And we had been married for 10 years prior to that. And we still co-parent. We actually co-parent much better together than we parented together when we were married. So, we still have that ongoing relationship. But I found myself just kind of like on my own. What was I going to do? Financial advisors work off of, well, the kind that I was at the time worked off a commission, very variable income. And I very quickly realized that if I wanted to be in control of my income and really be in control of being able to be available for my kids in the way that I wanted to be available for my kids, I had to take a lot of ownership in the way that I was going to do work and, the way that I was going to spend my time. And so ultimately, I opened my own business, which is supporting other women who are going through the divorce process. It's Intentional Divorce Solutions now. It was Great Lakes Divorce Financial Solutions when I first started the company. But it's been a wild ride, Sherry. I mean, the ups
It
and
sounds
downs
like
of
it.
all of it between like the divorce and the business and the kids growing up. I'm now remarried. But I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. Well, the kids are a blessing however they come to you, but they are a disruption, a career disruption, as we like to call them. And
Yeah,
it's a challenge. It's interesting as you're talking, I'm thinking about my mom, as was my example. She sold real estate for that same reason, to have some flexibility in their schedule. I remember her picking us up after basketball games and always being late, but she was there for us. And I think that set the example for me that I needed a career that I could do, especially as I ended my marriage, and I could do with that flexibility to be available. And I think as I'm hearing you talk, I kind of feel like we're like the ground setters, we're like the trendsetters for this. Let's work from home, let's be flexible, let's enable our children to have moms, but not give up our careers or the ability to support them when we're single moms, because we have to be able to do that. And a
right.
lot of our jobs just don't lend themselves to that. So I kind of feel like we kind of precluded or preempted the whole work from home thing. And how do you manage? And soccer moms, you're a soccer mom, but you're a working mom, right?
Right, right.
They talk about career life balance. I always see it as a blend. It's not a
Mhm.
balance, it's a blend. How do you do both at once? You carry your cell phone. I think cell phones crack that open for us pretty good too.
I don't know what I'd do without it.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Well, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so excited that you're here with us today, because you do have some amazing credentials. I see you're an accredited financial counselor. You're a certified divorce financial analyst. We've spoken to one of those before. You've got a master analyst in financial forensics. That fascinates me. You're collaborative trained financial neutral, which I assume means you can objectively see both sides of the story. Is that
Well, I'm trained
what
in the
that means?
collaborative process. Are you familiar with the collaborative divorce process at all?
No.
Okay. So it's a very specific process where each of the clients hires a collaboratively trained attorney.
Okay.
And then there are other people who are brought into the process to help facilitate. And oftentimes a financial neutral is one of those people. And so it's like helping with both parties understand the financials and understanding what the options are to be able to come to resolution.
Perfect. Okay, that's really needed out there. I think we put too much power in the hands of attorneys through the divorce process, and I'm seeing some creative solutions to getting around that emphasis on the fight, because attorneys
Mm,
want to go to court, they want to fight. And I like, the certified divorce financial analyst. I know that's a really big up and coming trend in getting things fairly distributed before the attorneys have to even touch it, or so
right.
it's less costly for everyone and less contentious, I would hope. So it sounds like the collaborative divorce process is similar in that it enhances the ability to neutralize a very touchy situation by putting neutral people in and trained people into the whole process. Is that
Right.
fair?
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. And then you're also a mediator,
I
trained through
am.
the Ohio Supreme Court, no less. So I'm like, oh, she's a friend of mine. Oh, I feel so important now. Thank you. And then you're an author. You've written a book, and of course, you're a speaker. Right? Did I miss anything other than the one company I'm holding on to because that's where I want to put our focus?
No, I keep busy.
I don't know when you sleep. I thought I was a busy person, but I can't claim any kind of credentials like these. This is totally incredible. And I know you're very active in NABO and some other, organizations, and that's really super that I love that we're on the same journey, like side by side. Like we have different missions, but they overlap. And I
Mhm.
know we've talked a couple of times, and I just have great admiration for you. So thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. I really appreciate it. So before we dive in, I just need to kind of tease it out a little bit. So my understanding is that there's a third business that you're running. Now, what I read was that this grew out of a passion project. So can you tell us what the passion project is or was and how you came about to start this third business, which maybe I've got them out of order, but it seems like it's a late bloomer in the Leah Hadley story. So tell us about that and the third company we've been alluding to here.
Yeah, so it's the Watch Her Thrive community, and it started as moms managing money. Because I'll tell you what, when I was a single mom and I had
Mhm.
these three kids, basic
Mhm.
money management was really difficult. And I'm a financial professional, right? It was just, with the kids, there's always something that comes up. I remember very clearly, this is like within the first weeks that we had them, and my son needed new shoes. And it was like, it was the last thing. Like I just couldn't do one more thing. And I just broke down in my mom's car, just crying about these shoes. And she looks at me and she was like, Leo, we can handle a pair of shoes. And we went to the store and we got a pair of shoes and moved on to the next thing. It was just, I was so fortunate to have her. She's such a
Yeah.
grounding force for me in my life. But I was struggling because, there are just so many things that come up with these kids. And, we had just made a big career shift. And so, I had lost income that way. And so there was just a lot going on financially. And so this was really born out of a desire to support women who might not have all of what they need in terms of financial management and really driving financial literacy home as much as possible. I'm also a big believer in us kind of increasing our own financial literacy so that we can teach our children. A
Oh
lot of
yeah.
times people really want to put the teaching of how to handle money into the schools, but I think there's so much that we can be doing at home, and we're managing money at home. That's where we manage money, and so there's a lot of opportunity, but we have to educate ourselves first before we can really start to see that come to fruition.
Okay. Well, I hear you. The other thing that my experience, we were had the opportunity to adopt two children and had them for a long weekend, and my husband at the time couldn't handle it, so we ended up not keeping them. But what I realized, and this may or may not have been true for you, but everyone shows up when you have a baby because I'd had a child before. Nobody shows up when you adopt a child. Was that your experience? Sounds like your mom was there for you.
My mom was very much there for me. We had some people from our church who helped out, but it's just different. It's a different experience than when you bring a baby home from the hospital. A lot of times, and especially because, that first year they were with us as foster children. We weren't able to
Right.
adopt them for almost a whole year. And so it's just a different experience. I think people don't necessarily know how to react or interact around it. And each child comes, well, this is how our kids came, with a garbage bag full of clothing, and most of them like don't even fit. They're out of
Yeah.
season, or kids grow so fast, so they need everything. So it was
Yeah.
very overwhelming.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, and the financial impact is different. When you have a baby, you have a baby shower, people
Right,
give you all the expensive accoutrements that you need for babies. Now, these were a little bit older children, not needing baby strollers and things probably as much of that kind of stuff, but
right.
there's still a boatload of things that come with three children. I can't
Yeah.
even imagine how you financially handle that all at once, like that. I just wanted to interject that because I don't think people stop and think about the difference. And
Hmm.
because I sort of had a similar experience, I kind of get what that's like. I didn't end up adopting, but we came close. And so
Hmm.
I just wanted to reiterate that there is a financial hardship, even if you were adopting one, that you weren't probably as supported by your community because people don't know what to do,
Right,
and they are in the foster care, so you could lose them. And so
right.
how much of a commitment do you want to make to these children financially? And I'm going down a rabbit hole, I'm sorry, it just fascinates me, your story fascinates me. All right, so this business, Watch Her Thrive, is very much about supporting financial literacy for women, especially single moms. Am I hearing that correctly? Is that a fair summary?
Not always single moms, but a lot of women who are divorced, we support. Women who have taken responsibility for their finances for one reason or another. Sometimes their husband may have fallen ill or unable to, even if he had previously. Sometimes it's just women who they're responsible for the money and they just never learned how, but their family has kind of delegated that to them.
Okay.
And so it's really all about increasing financial confidence through financial literacy.
Perfect. I love it. That's what we're all about too. We just have a focus on financially abused women. You have a different, slightly different focus, but the same goals, I think, in mind. And I love the learning it yourself so that you can teach it to your children, because I think that is a big piece. I taught it to myself too. I remember realizing that I knew how to do money better than my mom when my mom turned 80 and I took over her books and went, these are a mess. I have no idea what she's doing, but it's she encouraged me like your mom did to go out there and be a powerful woman and have a career and all that good stuff. So hopefully we can take the next generation to the next level by educating the moms and the women out there now who aren't getting it anywhere else. And
Right.
I think that's a key piece of what we need for empowerment across the board for women. I think if you have that confidence to handle your own money, you can go a lot further in life.
Absolutely. And
And
a
in this,
big piece of that also is recognizing that you're in control of your income. So a
Mhm.
lot of times people just feel like very stuck financially because they feel like their income is limited. But what we really teach and preach is that you are in control of your income, and there are many different ways to bring income into your world and to be empowered to look at those options and to make decisions for yourself around them.
Perfect. So can you tell me a little bit about how the program works? Is it like classes? Is it a group? How do you work it? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
so we do a ton of just free workshops, and we have a free Facebook group online, Watch Her Thrive. But then for the paid program, it's a mastermind program. So it's really designed for women to be learning from each other. We bring in guest experts that allow them to learn more in depth about particular subjects, like maybe they're interested in real estate investing or stock market investing or what have you. We'll bring in guest experts so they can really learn, but they also have each other for accountability and to learn from. Maybe somebody knows a lot more about insurance than somebody else, or I don't know. We really enjoy watching how they can kind of collaborate and learn from each other.
So it's like a mastermind group. So you join a set group of people and that group stays together. Then maybe there's another group later and another group later. Okay,
Correct.
that's great. And in that financial literacy, anywhere in there, do you address financial abuse?
Not directly, no.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
So if a woman had been financially abused, would this class be beneficial?
Yeah, it definitely is beneficial in terms of building that financial literacy. I've worked with a lot of women, unfortunately, who have experienced financial abuse, and um, so I can kind of guide the conversation in such a way where we notice the things that you're telling yourself a lot of times that need to kind of be reframed in a more empowering way. So that allows you to be able to make decisions that are empowering rather than, some of us are just so programmed to make decisions that are disempowering because of the experiences that we've had. And so some of that we kind of work through in terms of the language, but I also think that a lot of times, depending on the nature of the abuse, sometimes they need more individual or one-on-one support as well.
Yeah, right. Well, I definitely see that we talk a lot in Strong One Thriving about the mindset versus the skill set, and
Mm,
that you really need both. And if you've been financially abused, most of the time your confidence in handling the finances has been undermined to the point where if you had any going in, and most of us weren't raised with a lot of financial literacy or training, so went into this marriage, maybe it's a gift that you naturally have, or maybe it isn't, but then you come out of the marriage just like beat down to a pulp, and having to get back on your feet and understanding how to overcome that voice in your head is in my mind, a really big piece of the recovery. Yes, you need to have the skills. And it sounds like your program does a lot to help marry those two pieces as well. So that's
exactly. Yeah.
really beneficial. Okay, so tell us a story of a woman you were able to assist in financial abuse recovery. Do you have a story you can tell us without naming names?
Yeah, there's tons of them. Let me think about it. I have one woman who, ugh, during her marriage, she wasn't able to work. Her husband didn't allow her to work or to own a car. So she was very isolated in her marriage. And so when she came out of her marriage and we were working through really setting a strong financial foundation for herself, she had a really hard time spending
Mm,
anything at all. That she really had this messaging that she didn't deserve anything. And once we built that financial foundation and made sure she had a good cash reserves and she was well insured and, had the basics of that foundation set, she was in a position where she was okay to spend financially. She was okay to spend. And that was something that we had to really work on together to see that she could actually enjoy her money. Because it was something where, for so many years, she felt like, um, it just wasn't something that she could do, and
mhm.
and was actually told, that, she wasn't capable of managing money and, really, a lot of negative talk around any spending at all that she did, and that messaging just came with her, but now she's actually happily remarried and, has a wonderful partner who's been very supportive. They are very open. We all work together on their financial planning, and talking through their financial goals, what they're doing, how they're choosing. And he really supports her in enjoying money, which is fantastic because that's definitely something that she needed support with. So it's been wonderful to watch her just blossom those first few months after the divorce was final, and she was just kind of floundering as it related to money, and it was hard to witness. I'll be honest.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've heard that before, that women, especially in relationships where they didn't have the control over the money, have a hard time learning that it's okay to spend. And once you are financially set or comfortable or in control, if you will, then it's not a bad thing. And you need to
Right.
learn that money has a positive side, not just a negative side, and the reward of it and the enjoyment of it and what it can bring to you. That can be a hard one to overcome. That's a great story. I'm so glad to hear she's doing well and
Yeah.
has a good partner. That gives our audience some hope that there are guys out there who will walk the journey with you instead of against you. And that's really good to hear. So
I always
if a woman,
caution people though, when they're getting into a new relationship, if they are feeling fragile around money, to be very cautious because it's also a situation where they could easily be taken advantage of. And we don't want to see that. And so that's something that we're always very cognizant of and talk openly about to make sure that they're feeling sound and secure enough to start having conversations about money.
yeah, I talk a lot about yellow flags. Like, okay, if your gut's telling you this seems odd, dig a little deeper because now you've been through it. You don't want to just fall back into it. You have to stay in your power. And that can be challenging and it goes into relationship advice, which I'm not good at. Believe me, I'm the last person you want to take a relationship advice from. But I do worry about that. I worry about women not having recovered enough to be powerful enough to say, hey, before we go any further, let's have some money conversations, whatever that looks like in that relationship. And then really listening to what the underlying message is. Is he being truthful? Is he just trying to persuade me? Is he being, is he
Right.
showing off his money, but there's really none? It's like that digging a little bit deeper, especially in a new relationship. I totally encourage that as well. And I like that you said, building up your confidence in your ability to talk about money and not just pretending you don't need to, because that's
Right.
part of what happens originally, probably, or happened originally. Okay, that's good. So, what stage in the process of recovery, like if a woman is thinking about leaving a marriage, she's already left, but she hasn't filed for divorce, she's filed for divorce, she's past divorce, where in the process of recovery would your services best be a good fit?
So, under Intentional Divorce Solutions, we offer a program called Path to Prosperity. That is a wonderful program for women who are in the early stages of divorce or in the middle of a divorce who need support on the divorce itself.
Okay.
So, our Watch Her Thrive program is for those who are already past that. And again, they may not have gone through a divorce at all, they may just be needing support and money management. But Intentional Divorce Solutions really does provide that comprehensive financial support as it relates to the divorce itself. So Sherry mentioned that I have a master analyst in financial forensics. So sometimes we're doing, the separate property tracing or, looking into finding the money, those kinds of things. Sometimes we're working with people on just budgeting and understanding, okay, you're facing some really big life changes here. What is this going to mean for your income and expenses? Certainly helping with property division and that sort of a thing.
Awesome. That's a good thing. You've got kind of two different pieces there that help going through divorce. You go with the first one, and then after the divorce, go with the Watch Her Thrive. Okay. And what would you recommend for women who have been financially abused and are working on financial recovery? Just kind of a general advice, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, I have lots of it. But a big one is to really start to connect with money, and to really start to build that relationship. Look at it as a relationship. And I know that sounds funny for a lot of people, but you probably already have one and maybe just haven't necessarily acknowledged if it's a negative relationship, right? But you can even write a love letter to money, and actually write down on a piece of paper something that you want to do, or something that money can help you to do, or really connecting with it. And that allows you, again, to start bringing it more to the forefront of your mind instead of kind of burying it. If you're worried about money, if you have concerns, get them on paper, write them down, so then you can start to really address them, and really get clear around what are you worried about. And so for some people, I've heard it more than once. They're worried that they're going to eat cat food when they're retired. I don't know what it is about cat food or why people say that, but a financial plan can tell you where you're at, and that there's no reason not to do that for yourself, to take the time to sit down, have a financial plan created so that are you in a good place for retirement, or do you need to save more, or do you need to reduce your fixed expenses? What do you need to do in order to not eat cat food, for example? But if that's a real concern of yours, then go through the exercise of figuring out, number one, does it have to be? I know I had a client who, she was so worried about spending money on Starbucks, so worried about spending money on Starbucks. And then we went through her plan and she's in great shape. She can enjoy
Yeah.
her Starbucks too.
Yeah.
you know,
That one got
so
overplayed for sure. That whole, you need to skip your Starbucks got overplayed. That's like $5, $10 a day. It's like you should be long beyond that when you're looking at, financial recovery. So
Yes,
that's, yeah.
absolutely. But a financial plan does give you a tremendous amount of clarity. It can really help you to see, where the issues are, or if the issues don't exist and they're just kind of something that you're stressing about and don't need to be.
Okay, that's great. What is something every woman should know to help protect themselves from ending up in a financially abusive relationship? We touched on this a little bit. Can you go to more the actual money side and not so much the emotional side?
Yeah, it's really critical that you always know your financial situation. That means that every year when people are signing their tax returns, you're looking at those tax returns, you're reviewing them, and you're signing them with knowledge. If you don't know what the tax returns say, work with a professional to help you understand. And there's so many videos online. You could probably go to YouTube and do some research, but take some time to really understand, what are you signing off on when you sign off on your tax return. Know where all the bank accounts are, where the investment accounts are. If you are meeting with your accountant or your spouse is meeting with your accountant, make sure you're attending that meeting. If your spouse is meeting with your financial advisor, attend that meeting. The more that you know about your financial situation, the less opportunity there is for financial abuse.
I love that. Also asking questions. I find that I hear a lot of women who went through a financially abusive relationship and maybe went to the CPA or went to the financial planner, who was most likely male, and were kind of poo-pooed. Oh, don't worry your pretty little head, when they tried to ask questions. So it is important to ask the questions in the situation if you can, but also if you're not getting the answers that are satisfactory, going to an outside source who can answer those questions for you, I think is really critical. So basically financial education and understanding of the investments and taxes to a certain degree, but also your particular financial situation. Then it's what you're saying. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so this is similar about what financial advice would you give to a woman who's either working on leaving or has recently left a financially abusive relationship?
Savings is so important, cash savings. So if you're thinking about leaving, look at, how you can take some cash with you. Cash gives you flexibility, it gives you choices. When you're trying to live off of a credit card or some other kind of debt, you're very limited in what you can do. And so the more that you can have saved in cash, the more security options and flexibility you're going to have.
I preach the same thing. I tell women, get some cash saved before you leave. especially if you have a joint account, you can keep it separate so that you have some resources, because I've heard of exes draining the joint account and not leaving
Absolutely.
anything available, or, you know, there's a lot of vindictive behaviors that can go along with a divorce, especially if he is abusive. And we all know financial abuse shows up in, you know, if there's other abuse,
Right.
there's 99% chance there's financial abuse. So if you're being financially abused, there's a pretty good chance you've got some other kind of abuse going on as well. And of course, we want you to be safe and protect yourself. But part of that protection is having a financial cushion that you have access to that can't be drained when you look away for a moment, if you will. Yeah. Okay. So I know you're not feeling great, so I want to wrap this up for you. But any other general advice you would give to our audience who are women who've been through or are currently experiencing financial abuse?
Yeah, I would say, it's really easy to get in the mindset that it's not possible for things to change. And, that's can feel like a safe space to be because that's what you know. But the reality is, you absolutely can be in control of your finances. Everybody can. Even if you don't feel confident now, nobody was born knowing how to manage money. And so these are skills that you can absolutely learn. Take the time, do it for yourself, do it for your children. But ultimately, don't let your own mind telling you that there's no other possible way keep you where you're at.
Awesome. I love that encouragement. I think we all need to hear that from another woman. So where can our audience find you if they want to learn more about your services? We'll post everything, but if you want to kind of give yourself a shout out, now's your chance.
Sure. I do have a new podcast. It's called Intentional Divorce Insights. So if you are going through a divorce, you can find that on Spotify or iTunes. And it's all about the divorce process and making intentional decisions for yourself for your best next step. I'm also on Instagram as Watch Her Thrive, and we have the Watch Her Thrive Facebook group.
Awesome. We love that. Thank you so much, Leah. So, is there any questions you have for me before we go?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, especially not feeling well, to be here today and join the audience. And we will get this video posted on all the appropriate places. So hopefully people will find you and reach out to you, because I think your services are super valuable. And I think there's a great opportunity for women who need some extra financial support, either through the investing arm of what you do, through the intentional divorce solutions that you've got offered, or with just the financial literacy in the Watch Her Thrive. I think you've got three great options there, and I think that's super. And I appreciate you being here to share it with us. Thank you so much for
My
being here.
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Sherry.